A lot of times people do not even want to go into inner child type of stuff. They think it's really silly, airy-fairy, whatever, but I can guarantee you I've had multi-billionaires, professional pro NFL players literally going back to childhood and digging out that childhood belief. And these big, brawny men, they're like, okay, I have to address this child. Otherwise, it's not going to get addressed at all.
Hey, it's Rocky. Welcome to Richer Soul. Today's guest is Kimberly Lou, who's going to talk about becoming who you are meant to be and conquering your inner child. Imagine it's 12 months from now, and you've achieved your major life goals. How does it feel to be in the best shape of your life? To wake up energized, excited about the day? To have great relationships and friends who support you and propel you forward? How does it feel to have an excess of money, to be able to make the choices you want? To be fearless and open to trying new adventures? Imagine being connected to the universe and it providing everything you desire. It's possible over time, and your past does not dictate your future. The only thing holding you back from this vision is you. It's time to take control of our thoughts and use them to our advantage. Welcome to Richer Soul, where we achieve our dreams and bring balance to health, wealth, relationships, time, and spirituality. If you have not had a chance to listen to episodes 1 through 9, I encourage you to go back and listen to the framework behind Richer Soul and how to create the life of your dreams. You can also find all the show notes for this episode at richersoul.com. While you're there, you can sign up for a monthly email where I share the best articles I read this month, let you know about upcoming episodes, and share a little wisdom. You can also listen to coaching calls under the Coaching Calls tab. I also share the most interesting articles I read every week on Facebook at facebook.com/Richer Soul. And there's also a Facebook group where you can ask questions and interact with other listeners. Today's quote is from Leo Tolstoy. Everyone thinks of changing the world, but no one thinks of changing himself. And that really hits home on the theme we're going to talk about today. Can you imagine being at the top of your game and still having inner struggles, self-doubt, or that nagging feeling that you're not enough? This happens more than you can imagine. You can't change yourself until you understand yourself and what your drivers are. And then, as we talked about in the last 2 episodes, the action steps of knowing your vision and your values, and how you redirect yourself from where you are to where you want to be. Next week, we're going to talk more about head trash, those voices in our head that prevent us from success, and we'll have a multi-millionaire businessman to share his journey and how he went from the top to the bottom and is coming back up. Today, Kimberly Lou shares how she helps people at the top of their game get over themselves. Kimberly Lou is an integrative life and corporate mentor who coaches top CEOs, entrepreneurs, celebrities, and world-class athletes around the world. She helps clients accelerate and thrive through mental focus, emotional fitness, and physical training. In addition to Kimberly's mentoring programs, she's an accomplished author and a nationally recognized spokesperson for mental health and wellness. With over 2 decades of experience and extensive education, Kimberly Lou creates attainable solutions using techniques that work at all fitness and wellness levels. Kimberly Lou has helped doctors create programs addressing mental illness, cognitive disabilities, and major addictions, in addition to facilitating workshops and support groups for clients struggling with cognitive, mental, emotional, drug, and eating disorders. Kimberly's program is geared towards men and women looking for more than just the standard life coaching, in order to excel at the maximum level of their ability without burning out. She expands the concept of fitness to address personal accountability, mindset, nutrition, and physical exercise, a fully comprehensive approach to sustainable health and success. She's been featured in top-tier media outlets, including ESPN, MTV News, E! Channel, MSNBC, Showtime, HBO, Rolling Stone, and now Richer Soul. Let's meet our guest. Welcome to Richer Soul, Kimberly Lou. It is great to have you join us today.
Oh my goodness. Thank you so much for having me. I'm really happy to be here.
And I'm excited to have you here. So we always start at the beginning. What was it like when you were growing up, and how much did your family and school teach you about money?
Growing up was very difficult, actually. I was the last of 9 kids. I ended up in foster homes by the time I was 15 years old. However, this is one thing I do know about money. My father was a multimillionaire, and then he lost it. But then he earned it back, and then he lost it again, and then he earned it again. So one thing I learned about money is that as long as you follow a formula, there's all particular kinds of formula. As long as you stick to it and you follow through, you will achieve what you want. The only thing with that is you've got to make sure you address those belief systems so that you can keep it.
And we're going to dig into some of those belief systems. So how did he keep losing it all?
Okay, so it was kind of interesting in the beginning. My dad, he was from the Bronx, New York. He was in the poorest of the poorest neighborhoods. He would just constantly earn money to make money. He was very smart. He made sure that no matter what, he was just always doing the right things. He was, attaching himself to the right people. But what would happen is he would get up to the top and he would get bored. So then he would sabotage it, because I think the fun for him was creating the business. But how he sabotaged it, a lot of times people have survival skills. The very thing that we use to get us to the top is the very thing that actually turns against us and almost like kills us. So for him, his whole thing was survival skills. He needed energy. So he started going to drugs to be able to get that energy and be able to keep up. And then the drugs would ultimately take him out. And then he would stop doing drugs for a little while. And then he'd do another business and he'd make it up. And then eventually just kind of took him out.
That's a shame. I know a lot of times we have money scripts, and one of the money scripts is sometimes I don't deserve it or it's not real. And so when we get money, we sabotage ourselves to, in a sense, we want it, but we don't want it. And so our underlying belief systems kind of mess with us.
Well, I think belief systems are everything. And it's usually the belief system is, people always say, well, what is a belief system? And I always say, well, a belief system is a story that we tell ourselves day in and day out. So I always say this too, if you're going to tell a story about your life, let's make it a good one, because whatever you say goes. But a lot of times we have blind spots, and our blind spots in our belief systems are basically, I'm not and the world is. So I'm not enough. I'm not deserving. I'm not lovable. I'm not capable. And then we also have the world is. The world is very punishing. The world is going to suck me dry. The world is unavailable to me. So when we have these particular belief systems, we've got to address them from the very beginning. Otherwise, they can and will take us out of the game of life, literally.
And that's very true. I think the toughest one there to address, though, is your blind spots, because you essentially can't see them.
Right.
Do you have a method, or do you have advice for how people can figure out their blind spots so that they can then address them?
Absolutely. We have a belief system, and then I have a whole thing where it's like you got to identify your belief systems. Well, how do we do that? We look at the reoccurring patterns that happen over and over again. So I remember teaching a class, and I remember somebody saying, okay, what are you good at? And somebody would say, they'd raise their hand, I'm really good at art. And I'd say, okay, great. Did you just become good at art? Or were you just naturally gifted? And they said, well, I took classes and I hired a coach and I spent hours on it. And I said, okay, so you're really good at that. You're really great at art. So, but it didn't happen, but you had the motivation to take classes. And then it didn't happen overnight, but it did happen. Yes. Okay. And then I asked who's not good at something, and somebody raised their hand and they said, I'm not good at relationships. And I said, okay, so relationships, have you taken any classes? Have you hired a coach? No, I'm just not good at it. So I stay away from it. So chances are we know our belief systems because we're not good at something, or it keeps reoccurring over and over again. Have you ever had a relationship and you keep attracting the same person in relationships over and over and over again, but it's a different person, different face, same situation occurring over and over? So when you have that, you have to know, like, okay, it's not that you're just not good at relationships. It's that there's something that's triggering you and you're not able to have it because there's like a script that you're developing. So that script is what we tell ourselves day in and day out. Oh, I'm just not good at relationships. So we have to address what we're not good at. And chances are, if it's not in your space and you want it to be, there's a belief system behind that. So next step would be, okay, we'll write it down. And then once we do that, we have to address that whole questioning behind I'm not and the world is. And so we say, okay, well, I've had this. When is the first time that I've ever felt this way? And usually it's from childhood, right? So for example, is there ever something that you have not been good at that you want to achieve?
I suck at singing.
Okay. And you want to sing.
You know what? I think it's just one of those things that I used to do as a kid, and it would just be nice to be able to do that occasionally. But it's one of those things that I'm just not getting on stage.
And so why? When was the first time that you ever thought this?
It goes back to childhood.
Yeah,
I think it was from a music teacher saying, you can't sing, be quiet.
Okay, got it. So that might be a blind spot for you. So your belief would be, I'm not, and the world is. So what would your belief be, Rocky?
I can't sing and other people have a gifted voice.
There you go. So that is a blueprint and a story that we tell ourselves over and over and over again. So we have to address it. We have to unpack those belief systems because those are the very thing. That child is the very thing that will take you out. It will not allow you to progress forward because it'll literally throw a tantrum, maybe cause anxiety, fear, doubt, worry, whatever it is, and you won't go near it. Does that make sense?
It makes total sense. And I think what I find interesting is that all of these things occurred during childhood when we don't have enough rational thought to challenge them. And here as adults, when we have the ability to challenge them, we're afraid to challenge them or we're held back from challenging them. And so we're essentially stuck in childhood.
Well, think about this. Think about, I say to you, Rocky, I'm going to take you on a trip. And you don't have to do anything. Just come over, get in the back seat, put your luggage in the back, and I have everything covered. And you say, okay. So you get in the back seat of my car, and then you notice that I get in the back seat with you. And you say, Kim, who's going to drive the car? And I say, don't worry. My 4-year-old daughter, she is going to drive the car. She's going to drive us to Arizona or wherever we're going to go. And if you were any sane person, what would you say, Rocky?
That ain't happening.
That ain't happening. Well, our 4-year-old is literally driving our lives. So we have to peel the death grip off the steering wheel, put them in the back seat, let them know that they're safe, and buckle that seatbelt in so that we can now drive our own vehicle called our bodies, our lives, our brains, our mindset. Very important to address that inner child in order to do any kind of changing.
I truly believe that. And that's kind of, I think, a transformation that I have found in my life. Mm-hmm. What have you found when you talk to people about this? Are they surprised by this? Are they aware of it but don't want to address it? Or is it kind of, oh, wow?
A lot of times people do not even want to go into inner child type of stuff. They think it's really silly, airy-fairy, whatever. But I can guarantee you, I've had multi-billionaires, professional pro NFL players, literally going back to childhood and digging out that childhood belief. And these big, brawny men, they're like, okay, I have to address this child. Otherwise, it's not going to get addressed at all. Some people call it the inner child. Some people call it the unconscious mind. Some people call it all different kinds of things. But the main thing is we must move through the filters of the unconscious mind to get through the root of it so that we can move forward. You have to pull those nasty weeds out so that we can move forward.
And that's very true. And it's not surprising that you say, here are people with billions of dollars or playing at the top of their game. Yep. And in spite of that success, they're still stuck because they haven't done the inner work.
That's exactly it. And they may be successful in their career, but remember, their survival skill may have been workaholism, right? But that very, very same survival skill that got to their success is the very thing killing them now because they're running themselves out. They're starting to burn out and they're not able to keep and sustain that level of success for a long time because they're doing it from sheer will as opposed to doing it from the inside out.
That's quite interesting. And that kind of brings us up to our topic today, which is something you call time famine.
Yes.
And it's the anxiety of it, having too much to do and not enough time. And I know you say it's affecting people all over the world. and if untreated can lead to anxiety, depression, and severe burnout. In what we talk about at Richer Soul, and I know in my life, time is a very big factor, and I really want to control it in the sense that I want to make sure that I have the time to be able to do the things I want at the leisurely pace that I choose to do them. However, I don't see many people like me. What is it that causes this? Why are people just constantly having to do more and more and more?
Well, think about it. We're constantly connected to our smart devices. We cannot let go of them. And let's take a working professional, right? We used to have 9 to 5, but now we have anytime 24 hours because the boss has access to us. We don't have we're addicted to our cell phones. We get those dings, like in casinos, they have all those dings. Well, smartphones and video games and all these things have designed these devices to be so addictive that we don't want to put them down. But secondly, we have the pressure nowadays to perform because you can see what everybody else is doing. You don't see what they're doing in order to achieve their success. You don't see that they're burning out. All you see on social media is, look how happy my life is. And so people are always trying to keep up with the Joneses and move forward. But what's happening with that is now they're not feeling like that. Here's that whole belief system again, that they're enough, that they're capable, that they're able to do it. But also think about this. If a deer is being chased by a pack of wolves, is he going to stop and have meaningful conversations with his deer family and be able to eat a steak dinner and digest the food? Or is he going to think, predator, where are my exits? How much time do I have to get there? We are living in that constant state of survival. And it's not just affecting our mental health, it's affecting our physical health as well. Like people are starting to get autoimmune disorders. They're starting to get irritable bowel. They're starting to get cancers, heart disease. And these can and will take us out if unaddressed. The body cannot sustain it anymore, and we must do something about it. But it's not just about time management, Rocky. It's about energy management. Now, people always say energy. Oh, you had me at time management, Kim, but what's this airy-fairy? Inner child and energy management. This is really airy-fairy. And I'm like, you know what? It's not that at all. We have to manage our mindset. We have to manage our bodies. We have to manage the food that we're putting in so that we can sustain these, fast-paced lifestyles. Olympic athletes, they train for the Olympics. They do all kinds they train their mind, their body, and even, I've worked with Olympic gold medalists who weren't making it, but we had to address that whole mindset and belief systems, and they ultimately took the gold. So it's very, very important to be able to let go of some of these smart devices for a little bit so that we can recharge, so that we can move forward.
And I know I do a couple of things with my device, and one of the things I do is I put it on silent, so it doesn't ding. The second thing I do is there's actually gray filters. You can turn your screen from color to black and white. So it makes the alerts less enticing. And then the third thing I do, especially at home, is I leave it on my desk. So it doesn't go to the bedroom, and it tends to stay at my desk for the most part. So I'm not constantly being interrupted by it. I've come to realize how much it kind of drives us. And it still drives me. I get it. And I know I react to it. So I'm trying to be as intentional as I can to remove myself from the phone because it's enticing, it gives rewards.
It gives rewards. And think about it. We're going on Facebook and we're getting all these likes. And we go to Instagram and get all these likes here. Maybe we didn't get enough likes or whatever. And so we're constantly in that, like, am I likable? Am I lovable? Let me see who likes me today. And that can be rewarding, but it can also lead to depression, anxiety, panic. All these different things. So it's important not only to turn it on silent, but to also turn it off because the electromagnetic waves kind of mess with our whole energy system as well.
And I know a lot more people I'm seeing every so often. Someone posts on Facebook, hey, I'm deleting my account. I'm walking away. Here's my cell phone. You want to talk to me? Call me.
Yeah.
And so that's really
I think it's cool. I think there's great things that come from social media. We get to talk, like here we are right now, we're on a computer and we're talking about how we can combat our difficulties in life and things like that. We can connect. We can reach out to community groups and be able to support one another. And then there comes a time where there has to be balance. Just with anything else, must be balance.
That's true. And we've come to use the word harmony because I think that. Too often with balance, people try to think that everything has to be equal.
No, that's not.
And that is not the case. And so I found the word harmony to be a little bit more understandable, to understand that you don't have to have everything perfectly equal.
And the thing is it's not possible to have everything perfectly equal, because if you're thriving in your business, partly your home life is suffering a little bit. If your home life is thriving, your business might be suffering a little bit. So it's about choosing, okay, where needs the most attention for right now, but also getting my mind into a state to where I can receive all of these things. Because a lot of times what's happening is I'm going in and let's say I'm reading a paper, but I don't even remember what I just read because I'm already too burnt out. I'm not going to see it. So it's about, again, refueling and making sure that we have everything clear. Our energy is in a beautiful state so that we can receive the information that we are reading or whatever.
So that we're focused on what's going on instead of constantly being distracted.
That's exactly it. And we are distracted.
That we are. We have more distractions now in life than we have ever had.
And more car accidents.
So you recently released a book.
I did.
Yeah, Becoming Who You Are Meant to Be.
Yes,
Why did you write that?
So this is my own hero's journey, as well as a step-by-step guide to help others prevent burnout. For me, I was a single mom working 80 hours a week. And, for me, the whole belief system was I'm not enough and I can't do it and I'm not lovable and all these things. But it drove me to workaholism. And I was literally creating these autoimmune disorders, bowel disorders. My sister died from pancreatic cancer because she had the same upbringing and growing up as well. She died from pancreatic cancer because she was going to like cigarettes and addiction and food to help soothe her. And so I went to workaholism. So, there comes a point in time where you just can't take it anymore and you have to do something about it. And I literally hit rock bottom. And I had my kid and I was working 80 hours a week and I was like, I can't live like this anymore. Something has to change. And at the time, before I didn't want to go back I was in group homes and foster homes at 15 years old. So my whole thing is I never wanted to go back home and live there. So I knew I had to fight and roll up my sleeves and do the work. But that being said, the work was the very thing that was killing me. So I was telling a friend, my schedule is so big. I need to slow down. She said, Kim, you don't need to slow down. You just need to become more. And I was like slightly annoyed. And I said, become more? What does become more mean? She goes, you're a meditator. Go figure it out. So I meditated and I was like, okay, well, what does become more mean? And, because before it was like time management. And then I realized I had to manage my energy. And I was like, okay, well, if I'm going to manage my energy, how do I do that? First, I needed to get clear. What do I want? Most people don't know what they want. They just say, I don't want this. But Rocky, think about this. Let's say I'm putting somebody on a weight loss and fitness program and I say, don't think about that cookie. Don't think about that cookie. Don't think about that cookie. What are you thinking about right now? Rocky, don't think about that cookie.
Yeah, thinking about cookies.
They're thinking about cookies. So people focus on what they don't want all the time. However, what's happening is they're creating the very thing they don't want by the sheer focus of it. So we have to get clear on what we want. And then we've got to become clear on why we want it. Now, that's the first strategy in business. What do you want? And actually, more importantly, why do you want it? And then what is it? But that being said, we got to become clear on what we want, why we want it. And then we've got to find the obstacles standing in our way. What's triggering me to sleep late at night? Or if there's some technique that I don't know, I need to become clear on my weaknesses so I can set myself up to win and come up with solutions. But once I have those 4 steps, what, why, obstacles, and solution, then I want to address my belief systems. What's my belief system? I'm not and the world is. I'm not enough and the world is against me. Okay, so the world's against you but you want to create a new belief system. So we've got to get clear. And, the brain loves to solve problems, Rocky. So when you are creating problems, the brain will make up problems if you don't give it constructive problems to solve. So we've got to ask ourselves why questions. So we come up with a new belief, I am enough. Okay, then why am I enough? People always say, Kim, do affirmations work? And I say, absolutely, if you believe them. But chances are, if you're saying affirmations, you don't believe them. So you're making yourself weaker and weaker all the time. So we want to ask ourselves, why am I enough? And what that does is that gets through the filters of the unconscious mind and into the problem-solving area of the brain. Well, I'm enough because I'm a sheer child of God. If you believe in God, I'm enough because I'm a good person. I'm doing the work, blah, blah, blah. And then, okay, why is the world for me if that's your new belief? And where is the world for me? Well, I have gorgeous friends and they're there for me all the time. The world is for me because I'm for the world. I'm a caring, loving person. So you start to create these questions so that the brain can solve the problem. When you're solving the problem, now you're focusing on the positive rather than what you don't want. So when we address that, then we want to move I always call in the morning, I have my hour of power or my golden hour. So first thing in the morning, I will read, write, and meditate. And that's when I address those belief systems. If, I read something inspirational, I'll write about it and then I'll meditate on it. And then I move my body for 30 minutes. And as I'm moving my body, it's releasing dopamine. It's starting to make my body feel good. So I'm starting to have and produce the energy that I need. And then once I've moved my body for 30 minutes, then I come in and I eat nutrient-dense foods. So think about this, Rocky. If I were to put sugar, caffeine, and alcohol in my gas tanks, in my rocket ship to try to get me to the moon, would you feel safe in that rocket ship?
Probably not.
Probably not. So your body, we have to put the proper fuel in our bodies so that we can get our rocket ship to the moon. And I'm not saying don't have sugar or caffeine, but make sure that you're getting nutrient-dense foods so that we can now have a healthy vehicle to get us to where we want to go so that we can sustain that energy and become more and become who we're meant to be.
So let's take a quick step back. You talked about having clarity in life.
Yes.
I have found that most people don't.
No.
How long does it take you to help people come up with clarity? And once you have clarity today, does it change over time?
Well, here's the deal. You must practice daily, first of all. You can be clear yesterday and not be clear today because you're not focusing on the right things. Now, that inner child, habits are a very strange thing. In the beginning, when you're starting to address these changes, let's just say I take somebody through a session, right? It's an hour long. Within that hour, I identify what your beliefs are. We unpack them. We get clear on what you want. We start to develop solutions and we start developing the blueprint of what we want. You're so clear. However, habit is a very, very interesting thing. So you must practice your new beliefs on a daily basis. That's why I say read, write, and meditate. Or heck, just meditate. First thing in the morning, that's when the unconscious mind is fertile. And that's when all the filters haven't come up yet. So in the first thing in the morning and the last thing in the evening are the times where you really want to address unconscious beliefs so that we can set ourselves up to win for the rest of the day. Does that make sense?
It does. I think people are sitting here saying maybe they haven't meditated. Maybe they don't understand meditation.
Right.
What are you doing in that time to reprogram your unconscious mind?
So again, to reprogram, now reprogramming and meditation are two totally different things. Now, for right now, I want you to just tap into your heart, like listen to your heart and just sit for a moment. And what do you hear?
You hear your heartbeat.
Good. You're hearing your heartbeat. Do you hear anything else?
You hear breath sounds.
Beautiful. And for me, I'm hearing my refrigerator and I hear the air conditioner. And there you have it. That's meditation. Meditation is just sitting quiet and listening and being in the present moment. Now, some people have a hard time meditating, Rocky. They can't sit still. So a lot of times what I'll have them do is I'll have them get outside in nature or go for a walk and just focus on everything green because they have that kinetic energy. It's kind of like this. I worked with Dr. Richard Grenese, and he used to have me do, and I still do, groups for his mental illness patients like schizophrenia and multiple, and identity associated identity disorder. So if I have somebody who has schizophrenia, let's say, and they're hallucinating, am I going to have them meditate?
Probably not.
Probably not. No, because we have to move our bodies to get that kinetic energy out. So if somebody doesn't know how to meditate, what I'll have them do is go for a walk and just, again, focus on everything green, because it gets that kinetic, wiry energy out. Then once they've worked out for an hour or half an hour, I'll have them sit down and just listen to the sounds. And that's when I can get them to calm down their brain. Starts with the body and into the mind. That's why in the first thing in the morning, I would have somebody do it, because their defenses haven't striked up, right? So that being said, we want to make sure that if we're in the morning and we're addressing our belief systems, that would be our why questions. Why am I enough? Why is the world for me? And then I would write that down. Now, sometimes people wake up and they're not inspired. So that's why I would say, read something for 5 minutes, inspirational, or watch a YouTube video, or watch Rocky on this beautiful show, right? To get some kind of inspiration. And then you write about it, because what you do is writing is a very powerful tool. When you're writing it, you're getting it into your unconscious mind. So you write about either something that you learned, or you're writing about something that you need to get out. So you're venting, like, I had a really horrible day. This person did this, this, and this. You're getting it out of your body so that when you do sit down and you do meditate, you can just become clear. And meditation, again, is just sitting and listening. It's just sitting still and listening to the sounds around you until you can be in the present moment.
So I think one of the things that people struggle with this is that when they sit still, there's too many negative thoughts that pop up, or too many issues that pop up.
Yes.
So how do we quiet them down?
So a lot of times when we're having negative thoughts come up, I'm not enough, I can't do it, I'm not going to make the bills, I don't know what's going to happen, what's going to happen to me, all these things, right? You write them down. Literally, you get them out of your body. Because in my opinion, that's the inner child. That's not you. That's the inner child's fear. That's the 4-year-old or the 7-year-old or whoever it is that was told that he wasn't enough, or that developed the story. So you've got to address those belief systems head on. So you write them down. I'm not going to be able to make it. Everybody's better than me. Okay, got it. And then after that, you write something over that. Well, maybe some people are better than me, but I am doing the work. Why will I succeed? Well, I'll succeed because I get up every morning. I do the work. I surround myself with the right people. Does that make sense?
It makes total sense to me.
Yeah. But maybe not to everybody else, right?
Here's the struggle. And this is what I get feedback on. It's like, I'm a business owner. I need to make money. You're a little bit too woo-woo for me. You're not. This is kind of a little bit out there. Mm-hmm. And so I try to bring the two together to show how this does tie into financial success as well.
Well, here's the deal, Rocky. I had a client. She came to me to lose weight. And I was like, okay, well, what do you want? And she goes, well, I want to lose weight, but I also want my business. I'm just feel like everything's so hard and it's sucking me dry and I don't want to go in and everything just seems so hard. We addressed her mindset around the business and identified the energy drains. Her energy drains were obviously her thoughts. Her body wasn't being moved enough. She wasn't putting proper fuel in, and she was letting anxiety take over her life. So we addressed 4 of those things. And then I was like, okay, now what do you need for your business? Because everybody knows what they need to do. Within 3 months, she quadrupled her income. She sold her house and she took her whole business to a whole other level. 3 months. When you address these, again, I can't say it enough, these belief systems, these triggers, these mindsets, because this is what's burning out your energy, is these negative thoughts that go all the time, over and over and over again. So if you have all these negative thoughts and you're not operating them at optimal performance, you're not going to be able to sustain your business, guaranteed.
And that's very true. Mm-hmm. I've heard you say this, and I say this the same thing. It's simple, but it's not easy. I say that all the time because people don't want to deal with their big ass emotions. It's too scary
Because remember, it's that 4 or 5-year-old dealing with the big S emotion, not the adult. And people say, I just pooped in my pants. What's the big deal? But to that 3-year-old who pooped their pants in front of all their friends in daycare, that's like failure, And so it's just a little thing, but it's the very thing that takes us out.
And that's true. And I've also heard you say that our defenses will fight us. Why is that? And how do we overcome that?
Well, think about this. Most people are 95% unconscious and 5% conscious. That unconscious breathes my heart, beats my heart, breathes my lungs, allows me to drive to school, drive my kid to school, wipe her nose, drink my coffee, and 20 minutes later, not even know how I got there. It's on autopilot. So who do you think is going to win, that 5% or that 95% in the beginning of a new program?
The 95% always wins, and it's probably even higher.
Yeah, exactly. So what we do is we've got to become more conscious. How do we do that? Again, we address what is taking us out. So first of all, again, we must get clear on what we want. Most people, come to me, I want a better relationship. Okay, well, what does that look like for you? I don't know. I just know that I don't want what I have now. Okay, got it. But, do you want somebody who communicates? Do you want somebody to give you gifts? Do you want somebody who is working all the time or constantly with you? So you've got really to get clear on exactly what it is you want and why you want it. And then we have to address the whole I'm not and the world is, because if you do not, it will literally take you out of the game. So when we address those why questions, we start to look at life in a whole new light. It's kind of like this. If I'm focusing on gratitude, I'm thankful for money in my pocket, and I'm thankful for that I have a car to drive. That's very vague. But if I focused on, I'm so thankful that I got to be on Rocky's show and that I get to share my message with the whole entire world. And do you see how specific I'm getting? We get to talk about burnout, and maybe if I just help one person, they're going to get it and it's going to save their lives. Do you see how specific I'm being with my gratitude?
Very specific. And you also have an outcome, and it's not a massive outcome. It's one person, right?
It's one person.
Today's episode of Richer Soul is brought to you by Profit Comes First. Most small business owners find happiness in the parts of their business they love doing and working on. And unfortunately for many business owners, it's not looking at their numbers. I've heard many of them say looking at spreadsheets and the figures is akin to a root canal. It doesn't have to be that way. At Profit Comes First, we help you implement systems to ensure that the money is always there to pay taxes, make payroll, and of course, reap profits. Those profits are the fuel to allow you to live the life of your dreams. What would it mean to you if your business had a steady supply of profit to pay for all your needs and allow you to sleep at peace at night, knowing that all the bills were covered? Learn more at ProfitComesFirst.com, and you can also schedule a no-obligation call to see if this system can help your business. Check it out at ProfitComesFirst.com. Now, back to learning how to increase our happiness.
So when we get specific about what we want, and even in the gratitude of it, we start to retrain our brains to literally focus on. It's kind of like you buy an Infinity FX35 and now you see them everywhere. When you start to retrain your brain to focus on what you want, why you want it, the solutions for it, and then ask yourself positive why questions, you start to focus on the beauty in your life. When you start to focus on gratitude, but not just a little gratitude, specifically, what are you thankful for? That I had this moment with my daughter where I had a hug and her arms were wrapped around me and I could feel her heart beating against my beating. And she said in my left ear, "I love you, Mommy." That's how specific that your unconscious mind needs you to be so that you can move forward. You've got to be able to do that in order to move forward.
And that's very true. You've kind of alluded to this before, with regards to food. And in your book, there are quite a few chapters on food. And one of the quotes I saw you saying is, there's a big difference between achieving material means and then having the health and well-being to enjoy it. Because I think a lot of people give up their health to have material success. Yes. And then they give up their material success to get back their health.
Exactly. I'll use one of my clients, for example. I won't tell you who it is for HIPAA laws, but I had a multi-billion-dollar CEO, and he came to me and his body was constantly shaking. And he died from heart surgery, right? And then he came back, and then life had literally kicked his ass so hard that he finally came to me to try to get his health back. And so we addressed all of these things, right? Belief system, inner child. We started meditating. We started doing all these things. And in the middle of it, he had gotten melanoma stage 4 cancer. They gave him 4 months to live. So we were like, oh my gosh, seriously, one thing after another. And finally, it was like, you've got to sell your business. I mean, I'm not saying that everybody has to sell their business. I'm saying that he was at a point in time in his life where he didn't want to do it anymore. So he sold his business, started doing all the self-care. He's now kicking and thriving. You know, his whole thing was, I have 5,000 employees, and if I don't keep this business running, they don't eat. And I said, well, if you're dead, they don't eat either. So he had to find the things that were draining his energy to let them go so that he could actually sustain his life. It's very interesting. So, but how about this? What if you're a business owner and you train your mind daily, you train your emotional, you tap into your emotional needs daily, and you move your body and you treat your body beautifully daily? What do you think's going to happen? Do you think you're going to be able to sustain your business? What do you think?
I don't see why you wouldn't be able to. Exactly.
And that's how you become more. And that's what I'm talking about, energy management as opposed to time management. There's only 24 hours a day. There's never enough time. But you can't manage time, but you can manage your energy so that you can work efficiently. When your brain is clear, when your body is clear, when your emotions are clear, you're more apt to think more clearly and make better choices.
So let's dig in a little bit more to the food part. What do you recommend that people do?
Okay, so I'm a sheer advocate of reward meals every week. I don't call it a cheat meal because it implies I've done something wrong, first of all. So I'm not saying let go of your alcohol, your caffeine, your chips, or whatever it is that you have. I'm a proponent of that. As a matter of fact, my daughter gets candy every day. But that being said, I also make sure that I fuel my body with healthy, nutrient-dense foods, especially first thing in the morning. I'll wake up and have an omelet, 1 egg yolk, 1 and 3 egg whites, and then I'll have a piece of fruit with that. What am I doing with that? I'm getting my proteins, which is, something like eggs or chicken or steak or whatever it is that you're going to have. Maybe some people do smoothies with a protein shake in it. So there's my protein to repair my muscles. I'm having a piece of fruit to make sure that my brain has proper carbs and rocket fuel, right? So I need some sugar. So that's carbs. And I need fat because fat is an emulsifier. So a lot of people say, I'm going to do everything fat-free. But when you do everything fat-free, your body cannot draw in the nutrients to sustain your health. You must have fats. And not only fats, like olive oil and things like that. Now, many trainers will tell you don't eat saturated fat. And I'm a trainer that says have saturated fats. As a matter of fact, have it twice a day. First thing in the mornings, saturated fat would be beautiful grass-fed ghee butter or coconut shreds or coconut oil. Because what happens is that fuel, not only is an emulsifier, draw the nutrients in your body, but it's also going to that's going to be energy. It's longer lasting, pure burning fuel. It's like petroleum fuel, so that it sustains your hunger. It doesn't, so you don't get hunger, but better. You have more energy. So these fats sustain your energy levels and your hunger levels, and your blood sugar levels and your brain levels. Is so important to get these little teaspoon, maybe a teaspoon in the morning, a teaspoon in the afternoon. These saturated fats really help with your life force energy.
And I think a lot of people struggle with food. One, from the standpoint of preparation too, from selecting the right foods.
Yes.
And making the choices. And I say, the first choice is made in the grocery cart. Buy right, and then you don't have the temptations. And I think you talk about it in your book, is shopping the outside of the U in the grocery store. Don't go down the aisles.
But now they're getting savvy to that. So now they're putting candy on the outsides of the aisles.
They've always had end caps that will always bring you in. And there's no doubt about that. I tend to work off of a list. So I just focus on my list, and I don't look for all of those things. And it's eating unprocessed food. So your vegetables, your meats, and I think meats have gotten bad raps. You talked about eating eggs. I don't think there's anything wrong with eggs. And then keeping your carbs low. And then you can get your carbs in better ways versus things that are high fructose. And your morning meal is not full of sugar, which unfortunately the average American, I think most of their morning meals are nothing but carbs at the worst point of the day to be eating carbs when you're most insulin resistant.
If they eat anything at all. Most Americans run out the door and they haven't even eaten anything, and they grab a bagel on the way, and they're just, they're not even sitting down and chewing their foods. So again, it's like you've got to sit down, chew your food, be present with your food if you can. It's like, I don't have time for that. Okay, that's okay. You got to eat in the car. Make sure you're chewing your food in the car. You know what I mean? And I'm the same way. Like, a lot of times I'll just make a smoothie in the mornings just to be able to get out the door, because I'm busy. I'm very busy. But I have to plan everything. And I love what you said. It's like, it starts with my list. It starts in the grocery store. But even before that, we have to plan so that we know what we're going to get. So we save that precious time.
It really doesn't take long to make food. I don't know why everyone fusses over it, because we cook a lot at home and it's pretty easy.
You can go to Whole Foods. People say Whole Foods, whole paycheck. However, they've lowered their prices. You can get a whole cooked organic chicken for $10. On Saturday, you can get it for $2 off. So it's like $8. You know what I mean? You can go to the $8 meal back of Whole Foods and get this beautiful $8 meal that's enough for two people at least. So you can have meals prepared, and you can go to places where they prepare your foods for you and bring it home, and then just put it in a little, portion. So it literally, most nights I do not cook. Whole Foods is my chef.
And that works. You have to figure out what works for you and your lifestyle, and you have to be intentional.
That's right. And I must be intentional, and I must get clear. Okay, what do I want? Why do I want it? What's the obstacles? Okay, time. So be it. The solution. Let's plan.
So I noticed you also mentioned in the book that our environment can drain our energy. And yeah, could you share some of the factors in the environment that drain our energy and some of the things that probably can light us up?
Energy vampires is the number one thing. Okay, when you start to illuminate on this path, you start to glow, right? But what people don't realize is that they can't steal that glow from you. They can't buy it from you. They can't trick it out of you or manipulate it out of you. They can't love it out of you. They have to roll up their sleeves and do the work. But what happens with that is when you start doing the work, you're going to start attracting people to try to feed off of your energy. And that is the most exhausting thing. An energy vampire is someone like who guilt trips you, who gossips, it's someone who you feel like you're around them and then you feel exhausted after hanging out with them for a few minutes. It could be your family. It could be your coworkers. It could be your friends. And so as you start to make these shifts, you'll start to notice your energy starts to get better, but the people around you can't tolerate being around them anymore because they literally suck you dry. Another environment that can drain your energy is your work environment, believe it or not, with the fluorescent lights and no sunlight. And so in order to address that, we want to make sure that we're maybe putting plants in our office. We try to go for a walk or open a window. If you're not near a window on your lunch break or on your break, get outside into nature so it fuels your soul. If you have a person that is an energy vampire and you can't get rid of them, make sure you're adding that self-care element. So when you are with them, you have these healthy boundaries around you. Healthy boundaries are a way to set like, oh, I can't talk about that right now, but you know what? We can talk about it later. Or, things like that. Also, when you're in environments like bars, Yeah, some places in California, they don't have, you don't have smoke anymore. However, you do have it in other places like Las Vegas, a lot of Midwest cities that you're still smoking in bars, secondhand smoke, and even alcohol. These are environments that carry toxic people. I'm not saying not to go to a bar. What I am saying is you want to be really, really mindful on who you associate with, because you are who you hang around with. Birds of a feather flock together. So wherever you're going, just know the environment, go have fun, and then come back and refuel.
And that is great advice.
Yeah.
I'd like to bring it back just to, again, focus on the business owner or even the executive or the people who are out there working. Is how do we tie back everything that we're talking about to increasing our wealth? Okay.
So here's the deal about wealth. Okay. I've seen people who are super wealthy and people who are not. The habit of wealthy people is you're going to follow through. First of all, wealthy people, they're going to get clear on what they want, period. They know what direction that they're going in. So get clear and make sure you have a laser beam focus. Write it down. See, Harvard studies have shown that if you're clear on what you want and you visualize it every day, you're more apt to achieve that goal 35% of the time. However, if you know what you want, you have a written plan, and you look at it daily and you follow through, you're more apt to achieve that goal and sustain it 95% of the time. The only difference between people who are not wealthy, there's a couple who are not wealthy and who are. The ones who are wealthy have addressed certain belief systems. And so that belief system no longer holds them back. And secondly, they do the work. They roll up their sleeves. They're very clear. And whatever didn't work, they learn from it. They write it down and they practice a new skill.
That's one of my superpowers. And I guess I didn't realize it. I always show up. If I say I'm going to show up, I show up. And if there's something to get done, I get it done. I may not like it. I may not enjoy it, but I get stuff done. Yep. And I didn't realize how few people actually get stuff done.
Showing up is half the battle, and then doing the work is secondly. But think about it this way. You want to manage your time. You want to train efficiently. So I always do segment of intention. So if when I'm with a client, first of all, I never do anything more than 2 hours at a time. And let me explain by that. I read a book it's about Walter Russell, the man who tapped the secrets of the universe. He never did anything more than an hour or 2 hours at a time, because once you do that, your brain starts to lose it. It can't focus anymore. So let's just say we take a college student and they have 4 subjects. So I would have them, wake up, do their hour of power, come back, eat something, and then start with math. Do math for no more than 2 hours. Then get up, go for a walk, eat something, get clear, and then start with English. No more than 2 hours. Then they would get up, they would go have lunch, do whatever they're going to need, segment intent, 2 hours, and then get up, and then 2 hours. That's 8 hours of your day, right? So you're never doing something more than 2 hours, unless you're in the flow, obviously, because your brain can't take it. It won't be able to sustain it for very much longer. So that's one thing that I've learned that's caused me to be so efficient. I was the only single. So when I worked with Equinox, I worked at Equinox Gym, and I was the top trainer there within 7 weeks. And I also was running my business on the side. And I was also the only mother there, let alone single mother there, who was also mentoring young women in rehab who had drug addiction. And do you see what I'm saying? I had my schedule. So I'm very clear. First of all, I plan and I get very clear on what my segments are, so that I can be absolutely 1000% present. When I'm with you, I'm with you. When I'm with my daughter, I'm with my daughter. So I set my day up that way so that I can completely focus on what I'm doing. And therefore, I get way more done than 99% of the population. Make sense?
Makes total sense. I'm very similar to that as well.
Yes.
I segment my things. I try and take control of my schedule so that I know that everything will come together. And when I'm there, I get that done.
Yep.
And then I move on to the next thing. And right. I'm very much oriented to ensuring that happens. You said something interesting in the middle there. You said 2 hours except when you're in the flow. How do you get in the flow?
As a writer, right? I've written 4 books. This new one's coming out. I get up every day also. And so before I get into after my hour of power, I write for an hour every day at the same time. How do I get in the flow? I train my mind and body to get into the flow. I train my mind and body to get in the flow. But I also, I have a structure, but I also allow myself to be wild in the structure. So I can't say, okay, 2 hours is up, I am done. So I just allow myself to be present in the moment. Sometimes it doesn't happen, but because I train my mind to do something at a similar time every day, it saves my energy. My brain knows, okay, it's time for us to get into the flow. It's just called practice. That's all it is. And so you train your body, you train yourself to get into the flow every day so that you can do it.
And that makes sense to me. Is there anything else that's in the book that we should have chatted about but didn't get to?
Well, yes. I want to talk about big ass emotions. A lot of times people are checking out, right, those survival skills like drug addiction, food, binge watching Netflix, all these different things. It's really important to know that we're just trying to check out because we don't want to feel emotions. However, if we can just sit with the big ass emotion and feel it, that emotion will literally collapse and go away. And that's how we release the big, addictions to, we have that intensity and we want to just squelch it. And there's nothing wrong with emotions. They're just feelings, and feelings are not facts. So when you're sitting with anxiety, fear, doubt, worry, bring it in. Allow yourself to feel it fully, and then it'll disappear. And then you can move forward, and then you're clear. So emotions, you want to identify these, because let me tell you something. I've known eight people last year alone, personally. One of them was 8 years old that committed suicide. It's such an epidemic. We're just running away from ourselves, and we have to run into ourselves and really allow ourselves to just feel every emotion, because they're not bad. You're not bad. There's nothing wrong with you. You just have survival skills. And I remember one person saying to me this, Kim, am I broken? Can somebody like me change? And I said, honey, you are not broken. You're just at a breaking point. And right before a breakthrough is a breakdown. So hang in there, hold on, roll up your sleeves, keep doing the work, and it's going to be okay. Going to be okay. And think about it this way. We're not meant to do this alone. If you're having any kind of mental health disorders or you need help, go get help from a healthcare practitioner. Go hire a therapist. Hire an integrative life mentor or coach like me, or listen to Rocky's, podcasts and things like that. We want to make sure we're here for you. These resources are here. And you can even go to my website, KimberlyLou.com. I have free resources. I have all different kinds of, programs that you can purchase as well. It's all there for you so that you can shift from settling and surviving to accelerating and thriving and into a life that you love.
And I have found the same thing with emotions is when you fight them, you give them power. But when you learn to dance with them and let them be and just feel them, they lose power and they go away.
Yes, it's important. And people say, what does this have to do with running my business? I say, everything. Everything.
And that is very true.
Mm-hmm.
Is there one action step that you can give people that they can take to move forward this week?
Yes. Like I said, that hour of power, that's going to be your goal. First, you want to address your belief systems. Okay, let's get clear. What do you want? Why do you want it? What's the obstacle solution? Write it down, keep it next to you, look at it every day. Then we want to address belief systems. I'm not and the world is. I'm not enough and the world is against me. Okay, what do you want that to be? I am enough and the world is for me. Okay, why are you enough? Start looking for areas in your life every day and see where you already are enough and where people are for you. It could be that you have a friend that's constantly rooting you on. It could be that your kid is like, I know you can do it, mommy or daddy. Whatever it is, however little it is, focus on that. Then every morning, wake up, read, write, meditate. If you don't want to read, write, and meditate, just 15 minutes of meditation, then move your body 30 minutes a day to a new you. Come home, get some food, nutrient-dense foods, some protein like eggs or whatever your protein you want to have. Some beautiful fats, at least a tablespoon, a teaspoon of saturated fat, remember that. And then beautiful carbs, apples, yams, bananas, fruits, vegetables. These are all vital. And that will actually help you retrain your mind, body, and spirit so that you can become who you're meant to be too.
And that is very similar to my morning routine. Slightly different sequence, but very, very similar to what I do every day. And it has dramatically helped.
Yes, I'm telling you right now, from somebody who was broke and living in my car and in group home and foster homes and drug addicted and doing everything I could just to try to survive, to now, let me tell you something, it's a whole different experience. I'm at the top of my game. I'm able to sustain it. I love my life. I'm happy. There is harmony with it, and it can happen. If it can happen for me, it can happen for you too.
And that's very true. You just have to be crystal clear on that's what you want and start taking the action steps. And as we said before, the path is pretty easy. Doing the work is hard. You have to keep showing up and putting in the effort.
You've got to do the work. And the work is simple, but not easy. But you have to show up. Showing up is 90% of the battle.
Very true. It's time to learn the secrets of life. What's your secret to living an abundant life?
My secret to creating an abundant life is really seeing where I already am abundant. I have to be thankful for what I already have because I get more of what I focus on. I'm very specific on what I focus on in my gratitude. Like, for example, I'm thankful for my daughter and her hugs. And when she says, "I love you, Mommy," that really is specific. That makes my heart melt. When I can get thankful about what I already have, it makes room for things to grow into my life.
And the reality is, if you're living in the United States listening to this podcast, you have an abundant life and you're just not appreciating it.
I already am. Yeah. Just by the sheer fact that I am in this country means that I am abundant.
What did you learn later in life that you wish you would have learned sooner?
There's so much. I wished I would have learned sooner how to refocus my mindset and get clear about what I wanted. Because I was always doing stuff what I thought other people wanted me to do so that they would love me. Because my whole story was that I was unlovable. So I would bend myself into a pretzel. If I had known that people wouldn't have respected me by trying to give them everything that they wanted, they would just take me for granted, then I would have really just stepped into who I am now and being like, "Oh, so sorry, that doesn't work for me. Take it or leave it."
It's not hard to say that. You just have to practice.
Have to practice. The hardest thing for me to say is no. It really is. I want people to be happy. However, I have to say no so that I can say yes to myself.
And that's very true.
Mm-hmm.
What's one piece of advice you would give to your younger self?
Do the work. Don't try to pay people less than what they're worth. Don't try to get a deal. Just do the work. Hire the best people. And if you can't afford them, find a way to make a trade and make sure to keep moving forward because you will make it. It's going to be okay.
And that's very similar advice to many other successful people that we've had on.
Mm-hmm.
If people would like to connect and find you and hear more of your work, what is the best way for them to do that?
So I have social media platforms all over the place, but the best way to find all of my social media platforms is on my website, KimberlyLou.com. That's KimberlyLou.com.
And I will put a link in the show notes so that people can find it. Mm-hmm. And I thank you so much for joining us today. It's been a very enlightening conversation.
Thank you so much. I love your work.
We all need to work on ourselves. It's a long, slow journey. Some of us do it faster, but for a lot of us, it's 10 years of practice. I know I've shared in the past Marissa Peer's video. It's called A Crash Course for Phenomenal Success, and you can find it on YouTube. Peer is spelled P-E-E-R. I encourage you to check it out if you haven't had a chance to watch it. She really talks about overcoming ourselves. Today's action step was to create your hour of power to work on the important areas of your life. I spend close to 3 hours many mornings between exercise, reading, eating, and meditating before I even get moving for the day. It's a big part of me being my best self. I can't have that unless I have the time to prepare, which means I have to get to bed at a reasonable time the night before. You see, as you figure out the step before, you can put the processes in place so that you do have the time in the morning to be able to start your day in peace and get yourself ready to handle whatever it is you need to do. How long do you take to get ready for your day? Or is it started in a rush of hustle and bustle? I prefer to check out the sunrise. Thanks for listening. And if you're still here, you must have liked the episode. So please share it with a few friends. It can start a great conversation, and I'd appreciate it. You can also connect with me on Facebook, on either the Facebook page or the Facebook group for Richer Soul. What's preventing you from moving forward, and who are you putting on your team to build the life you deserve? Taking no action creates a far worse outcome in life than trying something and failing. Can I help you achieve your goals through coaching and accountability? Just email me. We can start with a short chat to see if we're a good fit. It's Rocky@richersoul.com. For many people, one session allows them to take a giant leap forward towards their dreams. I'd love to hear how you're doing and how the information I've shared has helped. Thanks for listening. Have an abundant week.